Hey friends, welcome to another episode of the 10 Laws podcast with East Forest. I am said Forest of the East. This week, I have a wonderful conversation with our dear friend Christopher Willits. You might know Christopher Willits from his music out there in the spheres of beautiful, luscious ambient music. He's been doing it for a long time and doing it very well. But I've been trying to get him on the show, and we finally had him. So I think you'll enjoy this. And if you stick around to the end of the conversation between Christopher and I, he guides us through a wonderful little grounding meditation. So that is in this podcast as well. But one of the reasons I wanted to release this week is because Willits runs, or is one of the, I believe he's the founder or one of the co-founders. Anyway, he's highly involved, shall we say, with Envelop SF, which is this cool space that I did one of the Ram Dass chapter events there, release event, where it's got over 30 speakers, and it's this very enveloping, immersive experience with sound. And as you can imagine, it's been tough with COVID for them to stay afloat because they can't really do these in-person events. So we're doing a release show, a virtual release show for the Spores album on November 1st with Envelop SF. So how does that work? Well, Chris is taking the whole Spores record and he's doing what's called a spatial remix. So he's kind of moving and playing with the sound so it becomes a bit more of a three-dimensional, dynamic, moving experience on headphones that we can all experience together collectively, virtually, as a live stream. So we'll listen to it. And then there'll be a Q&A with myself as well, so we can discuss sort of how I made the record and what's going on and what our experience was like. So this is a donation-based event. If you want to, you can grab a ticket in advance, please. Go to eastforest.org/tour, and you'll see the event, see the links. Envelop has a website too, if you want to search that, and you'll see it on their streaming events. And I really look forward to sharing this with you. So that's 11/1. I believe it's at 6:30 p.m. Pacific, something like that. And a one-of-a-kind opportunity to take a deep dive into Spores with this even a more unique mixing experience. So check it out. That's coming up real soon. The Spores record is available on vinyl. There's only 300 copies, so some of those left. If you want to get your holiday shopping on, grab one while they're grabbing is good. We're going to make some little merch bundles too if you want to grab some other things in larger quantities, or, just kind of get a bundle of things. It's kind of fun, like the perfume oils and things like that. So if you're not on the mailing list, we'll probably mail out probably a little discount code or something like that for the holidays. But get on that. You can get on the newsletter at eastforest.org. But thanks for everyone who subscribes to this podcast. You can do that now. It's a great way of showing your support, as well as giving the podcast a review. We are crazy close to crossing the 200 mark as the ratings on iTunes, and I'm hoping one of you out there will be the last person to push us right over the edge. It's always nice when we get written reviews too, and I just want to say a shout out to Terry Jen. You say, always so relaxing and informative. I love the podcast, 5 stars. Thank you. Thank you for giving us that review, and thank you for all of you for listening. So crazy things happening. Definitely go out there and vote if you haven't already. It's a great way to show your civic engagement, but your universal galactic engagement as well. Everyone is needed. Every voice is needed in many, many ways, and one of those ways is voting too. So thanks for doing that. It's getting pretty cold out there, which I really like. The fall is diving deeply. I got to play my first outdoor show, my first show, period, since I was in Australia in February here in Boise. Our friends Duck Club Presents, they put together this outdoor show with myself and Magic Sword. And I played at the sunset, and by the time the sun crossed over the Rubicon, as it is, my fingers started to not work as well, so I had to keep things a bit more simplistic from that point forward. But boy, it was fun. I did record the set, so maybe I'll share some of that in an upcoming podcast, give you a little glimpse into, there was one track in there that was sort of a new live improvisation thing, but that was fun. Even this morning, It went down way below freezing last night here in Boise, Idaho. And we have a cold plunge, like one of those old clawfoot tubs outside the sauna. And Rod and I took a sauna, which was amazing to do first thing in the morning when it's that cold. It's 140 in the sauna, and I came out, and there was so much ice on the tub that I'm like, no problem. I'll just blast through it with my whole body. And I pounded and pounded and pounded at it with my rump. Never broke. I had to grab a propane tank and smash it and then get in, and it was horrifically, wonderfully cold. Okay, guys, I don't know if this will be as much as a shock to the system as that cold water is, but I think it will warm your heart, and you'll dive into the creative process and the music business and a guided meditation at the end, all things wonderful with our friend Christopher Willits. So I was digging around your website, Chris, and I've heard your music and known you for many years now. And I noticed that in your bio, or kind of like about your work, it seemed like there was a thread in it that I also try to convey in mine, in that, like, there's this, is it true to you that there is a directive or an ethos with your music that has to do with sort of introspection or personal transformation? Like it's intentional that you're putting it out there for that or making it for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the main point of my music is to create a space.
Mm-hmm.
People can come into it and do the work that they need to do. And it's working in these different ways where, I'm creating it. I'm holding that space, for myself to express what I need to express and that feeling. And at the same time, I'm imagining the listener, and I'm imagining the space that that's creating and where that can take them. So, no matter what kind of music I'm making, for me, it's very much about creating a space. And within that space, you can do whatever work you need to do. It could be really relaxing for people. It could be more ceremonial for people. It could just be nice stuff that's going in the background to help them focus and kind of tune the attention a little bit. So there's all these different modes to kind of come into it.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I'm creating, I'm really feeling out, kind of where does this thing need to go on a personal journey and a personal level? Because that's the kind of internal intention that I'm placing into it. And at the same time, I'm understanding, imagining like where that connection is happening. Sound is such an incredible, powerful, universal language, and people can interpret that language in infinite ways. There's a beauty of surrender in the creative process here too, where it may mean something very specific to me and relate to, a certain feeling or narrative or something that I'm learning through. But also I'm very aware that everyone else is going to have their own narrative and their own interpretation.
Sure. Like, what is it, though, in your history or your background that led you to make largely instrumental and ambient style music? I mean, can you just track us backwards? Has it always been that way? Or was there something that happened to you or a particular kind of event of any kind in your life, non-musical maybe, that inspired you as like, wait a minute, this is where I want to take it?
Yeah, I grew up in a very musical family. My parents are old hippies, and I grew up listening to all kinds of stuff. Very diverse music, everything from the Rolling Stones to jazz, to newer stuff at the time. My parents are just incredible music lovers, so I was exposed to a whole bunch of music. And at a young age, I started playing piano. I wasn't really that into it because I felt like the structure of of learning it, of like, it just felt very gridded and very kind of prescribed. And so I would just kind of improvise on the piano and play around. And my mom and dad took a notice of that. And I, got into my parents' record collection when I was about 12 or so. I really started going deep and got a record player, and just so grateful for the whole catalog of energy that they had available to listen to and learn from. And my father, bless his heart, he saw how much I loved it, and he always wanted to play guitar, and so he got a guitar for me. And I had kind of mentioned some stuff in passing, like, oh, I'm really feeling this music, And he took that cue and materialized it into giving me my first guitar. And it was a life-changing event.
How old were you?
At that time, I was 13. Mm-hmm. And everything is history after that. I mean, just playing guitar, I felt like I was able to speak in the way that I always wish that I could, that I could speak through my heart. And, and then that's really what led me to start making more instrumental music, because I felt like there was an opportunity to reach more people instead of making it so language centric about using English and whatnot. And I do definitely have music that has vocals and, uses English in it sometimes, but the majority of my music, the vocals that are in it are, harmonic layers that weave into guitar. And so, it's always just been this feeling that I could say more through instrumental music than being more didactic and using a specific, language and words.
Totally, man. I was it's funny you say that, because I was just having this conversation right as I woke up. I was having coffee with Radha, and we were talking about like the directness of words. And as I said, that's why I like music, because it's more broad and more open to interpretation. If anything, it feels like it's closer to a kind of source. And I like playing in that, even though it feels to me as you get into words, in some ways it's harder because they're more direct. So now you have to get into the realm of poetry and things to paint like a more broad picture in a way. And that's also why I got really into instrumental music. I came from more of like pop background, and I was like getting disillusioned with that. So I totally vibed that. What you're saying.
And I experimented with that a lot too. My first bands were like psychedelic, funk, rock, noise, like blending all that kind of stuff together. And, we had vocals in the music and whatnot, but I just felt like there was more of a universal connection for myself to focus on guitar and all the tones and harmonies that can come through that. Really a symphony at my fingertips, and but there's, it's a universal kind of connection, I feel, to the music for sure. But I don't think that it's less or more than, music with words. I'm definitely not down on any music with words. I think you just follow your heart into the music you feel you need to make. And that's the journey. It keeps evolving.
And are you self-taught, not just in playing, but in also production?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I went to art school, very much self-taught, playing guitar through high school. And I mean, I tried taking some guitar lessons, and basically the teacher would just have me bring in some CDs that would be like, what do you want to learn? And he would like tab it out and show me how to do it. And I was like, this is actually really easy. I'll just do this myself. And so I would just woodshed in my room with my parents' house, and just learn all the music, hours of listening to John Coltrane and Jimi Hendrix solos, and like pausing it and then going back and then playing it again and like playing along with stuff and understanding the patterns that I was really attracted to. And that kept growing. And then around, I don't know, it was maybe like 15 or 16. And I felt like I wanted to go deeper into jazz. And so I worked with this amazing guitarist named Rod Fleeman, who's a legend in the jazz world in Kansas City, where I grew up. And he studied with, he played with Pat Metheny all the time, and they both had the same teacher. And yeah, he absolutely blew my mind because he kind of opened up different positions on the guitar and just blew open this complex weaving of geometries and the patterns in ways that really, really benefited me. But I only took lessons from him for about a month or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt at that point I got what I needed to get. He helped me see the spirals of the patterns on the fretboard. And then from there, it's just been a constant journey of allowing my imagination and my heart to come out through my fingertips into, these patterns and just letting it flow. So it's been a constant process of, discipline, technique, and, you get to know all your scales and how things work together on a music theory level. And then also just letting that technical information melt away so it can just be present in the expression that, I'm wishing to get out there and share with people.
So it sounds like your process of playing music is a practice for you. And when I say that in the way, like it's your method of personal transformation.
Yeah,
so is
absolutely.
there a particular kind of, do you attach any ritual to that or process or structure, or is it the opposite? It's like, don't think about it, get out of the way, just do it.
Both, there's times where sometimes it's like chopping wood and carrying water, it's just the discipline of sitting down and creating the space to create and having no expectation of what's going to come out of it, and really having a discipline of play on that level too.
Yeah.
And then there's other times when I'm recording where, I really set time and space, and I'll know like, okay, this day or this weekend is when I'm going to make this piece. Like for instance, on the album Horizon and on the album Sunset, those were all one take pieces. I had written the compositions and then performed them a number of times. And then, just was like, okay, this is the time I'm going to record it. And after, performing them a number of times before, just let those happen in the moment. Very much like a live performance would happen. So I kind of move through a lot of different ways of working, but it's a combination of play and having a discipline of just creating that space, and then also setting a time, just going extra deep.
That's a lot of it. It's just like marking out the time, sitting
down.
Yeah,
and you really do. You have to have a big chunk of time. It's not like you can just, expect of yourself to make a track in like, an hour or 20 minutes or something. I like to work in about 4-hour chunks of time.
Me too.
Yeah, that seems like a good space. You can get in and explore stuff. You can see where it starts to develop, and you can, have a solid session for yourself to kind of take the next steps forward on that whole path.
Yeah, you get out before your ears get tired, and then come back with something fresh. And yeah, well. So as you've moved through the process of making this, I'm getting this sense that it's kind of deepened for you, and not just like for yourself, but like what you're making. And is any of that, do you feel like it's a direct response to what's going on in the world and the overall shifts that we're feeling and seeing, and the deepening of those shifts? Like, do you feel that your music and that creative process for you feels like a really meaningful way to create action against that, or with it, I should say?
Yeah.
Does it feel? I mean, does it feel stronger for you now, or like where are you going with it? You know, how are you feeling about things?
Well, yeah, I think, music and the creative process is such a powerful medicine. It's a medicine in the creation of it for me. And then also, I want to create that opportunity for people to use that as a medicine within their life, however they wish to. And anything that's happening for me is going to just naturally come out of the music, whether I want it to or not. And I surrender all the control for that. I'll have a general intention for a piece of music. For instance, Sunset was really about that idea of surrender and using the sunset as a metaphor of letting go. Letting go of the past, letting go of the future, saying hello to the present, letting go of your expectations. And also, there's a larger, more personal context for me because my parents are going through some health problems, and I see they're passing on the horizon, and it's something we talk about regularly. And I actually created all of that music at Snow Ghost Studios. I'm talking about the album Sunset. And my friend Brett and I, he has this beautiful studio in Whitefish, Montana. I went up there and I just cleared all the expectations of what needed to happen. And Brett's like, the space is yours. Let's just see what happens. And all this music started to come out of it. We did these takes like I was mentioning. And then listening back through it with my parents, it really resonated that this was music about surrender and letting go. And it was a really beautiful process. We actually had a mushroom ceremony
With your parents?
With my parents, yeah.
They are good hippies. That's good.
good hippies.
Yeah, good for them.
Yeah, and in listening to that, and talking to them after, we had such a beautiful communication about.
God, that's so beautiful, man. They're so lucky you guys could share that.
It was incredible, and it was really amazing. That whole experience, just being with them and talking through. And I was playing the music through that. And this is before I had given the album a name. It's before I'd done any mixing on it. These are just like the takes that I created that later became the album. And my dad was like, I want you to play that at my funeral. Or he's like, I don't want it like a normal funeral. I just want a memorial, and I want you to play that music at it. And I was like, right after that, I was like, wow, this thing is actually, it is an album. It's called Sunset. It's about letting go. It's about surrender, and it's just such an incredible, mysterious process. But, it's fun to look through the mystery and can see, okay, what made that come to be? And, it began with just the openness of allowing the music to become whatever it needed to be. And then the space with my parents, sharing that with them, that organically emerged. And then that began to inform what it is. So I think that happens pretty much with all my music. It's more of this bottom-up process. I'll have an intention oftentimes to kind of frame it, but no matter what that intention is, things happen that you cannot control. And you have to flow with it, and you let go through it, and it begins to teach you things that are always, exactly what you need to know.
I mean, it seems like a really important element in that was you sort of listening as the process was unfolding.
That is what it's all about.
Because otherwise you easily could have kind of missed these communications in a sense. It's this feedback loop of like how it's forming into shape. And when I hear you talk about that you made that record and then you used it in that session with your parents, and there seemed to be something really special that happened in that moment, right? But I'm guessing you didn't think about it as a musical tool when you were making it, right? But it turned into this sort of ritualistic tool for your
Sure.
parents, and you didn't know
It
that.
was, yeah. I mean, because kind of everything I make, I'm using it as like a medicine in a way for myself, and then others can enter into it. But I didn't really think that it was going to be that
For your
specific of a
family.
of a
Yeah.
utilitarian kind of,
Yeah.
you know, thing. Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. I mean, I love the word listen. It's such a powerful and clear word. And when you're creating, you're listening to yourself. You're listening to your love. You're listening to how that wants to be expressed. And as the music is coming out, you're listening to what that music wants. And this gets into the notes that you're choosing later in kind of the post-production process of how you're mixing those notes, how you're allowing that expression to settle and finally, surrender to whatever it is that you've created, and then allowing the listener, to listen and framing that space, just the best you
How do
can.
you do that? Because I think some people might be thinking in their heads right now, it's like, I understand the concept, but how does that manifest in your mind or in your heart or in your body? Not just maybe when you're making it, but also then when you're sort of, you've got that critical mind about, okay, should I do this? Should I change that? What does it feel like or look like to you to be listening versus not listening?
Well, it's an energy, it's an attention. From the very beginnings of feeling the music coming out, it's a warm glow, and it's in my heart, and my vision is open, my mind is quiet. That warm flow is coming out through my arms into my fingertips if I'm playing guitar, or up through my throat and out my mouth. Actually, when I'm playing guitar, a lot of times I'm always kind of singing the lines too, just kind of get both channels moving, and it feels really in sync with where the vision is going. And then you make the recording, and then you listen. Okay, what needs to happen here? Are there any changes that need to occur? How does the music want to connect to the larger intention of whatever this piece is about? And then that's where like the minutia starts to begin, because oftentimes there'll be some layers of things. And so, on a microscopic level, I'm asking myself, okay, how does this sound fit into that larger intention? And how did the vibrations of that sound connect to all the other vibrations within this composition to, occupy the space that I'm imagining? And so there's these scales of listening from the micro to the macro. And then, you get that completed in the way that feels is, appropriate to the numerous present moments that have, occupied this music. And then it gets to people. And I just love hearing how people utilize the music. And that always gives me a lot of feedback to see how it's translating. Because I can know that it's
Yeah.
working for me, and hearing from others to understand how it's working from them helps to connect the circuit. And it's always a process of iterating on that and refining that and improvising through it.
Yeah, it's interesting when a piece is released into the world, it feels sort of like you're making a little boat and you push it out, and it has its own life now. And I often feel like you might hear a story from someone about an experience they had. And part of me is, of course, excited and overjoyed. And part of me, though, feels like I don't really have much responsibility with that anymore. I feel like that's beautiful, and I feel a thread of connection to it. But I'm like, that was between you and the music now,
Yeah,
and like I'm not gonna take credit for that. That was you in that piece, and it's like two beings in a sense.
I feel the same way. Yeah, looking at responsibility, I think, is a really meaningful thing, right? And surrendering that responsibility when you're ready. Because what is your responsibility as a creator? And
That's a good question.
yeah, I
What is
mean,
it for you?
for me, and it goes into a larger question. It's like, what is our path just as a being here together on this planet? And, what is our karma? How are we moving through that? What are we learning? And for me, it's so much about completing the process, completing the work that needs to be done, completing the service that needs to be done. And that can come down to these very specific things like completing a piece of music. So that it's like asking, what is it that needs to conclude? What is it that what is ready to be surrendered on this path? And through that expressive process, I'm taking responsibility for myself to complete that in the way that feels natural to the process. Once it reaches someone else, yes, it is actually their music. And that's what's so incredible. I mean, when someone's listening, they're actually creating the music. They are making the music in that moment.
It's kind of like a tree falls in a forest kind of thing. It's like you need the listener. Oh, you need the act of listening to create the alchemy in a way. You did it as you were making it, and now it's just this entity out there and needs another listener.
It's very quantum when you get down to it, and it's also just very simple. Everything that we're experiencing, we are creating. We're translating into our understanding, through these perceptions. And then we can learn from it. And in that learning, we can complete the next steps along the journey.
You're talking a few times now about letting go and endings and sunsets. What is it you think, like what's coming up for you that's wanting to be let go of or have its own ending so something new can be born? And maybe that's a microcosm of what you're seeing in our communities or in the world.
Well, there's so much going on a musical level. I'm creating a new album right now. It's so interesting. I had a whole other album that was growing before the pandemic. And then I completely shifted gears.
How far along were you?
Oh, I was getting ready to mix pretty much.
Really? Wow.
And then after everything set in, it felt like that wasn't really the music that I wanted to be working through right now. So I've been working on this whole new album, and currently there's about 8 tracks on it, and they just keep going deeper and deeper. I don't have a specific timeline on it right now. I'm just letting them complete themselves. But every time I get into these, and every day I'll choose a different one to work on, just based like intuitively which one feels like the path to be on. So those definitely want to be completed, but I'm not trying to rush it or anything. There's not like any timeline on it specifically. And then there's a whole lot of technical and little and big and little life things I wish to have completed too. I mean, there's been a lot of challenges going on with my parents' health right now, and my mom's been struggling through Alzheimer's. And so this is a big season in the lifetime of our family. And we're transitioning her into a memory care facility very soon here. And talk about a paradigm shift,
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a major milestone of your entire life.
She is such an amazing person and such a creative being. And she's the mom, she's our nurturer. And now we need to step up and nurture her. And you go through a lot of feelings, when your parents are struggling on these different levels. And I'm just really grateful of the whole family not just my sister and my father, but the whole support of the whole family. We're all on the same page, and we've got mom's interest number one. We want to make sure she's safe and can get the best care possible. We tried to do it ourselves as long as possible, but it's just she's getting to the point where accidents can happen very easily, and so we found a good spot that she can go, and we can see her very quick, easily. It's like a mile away from, where she's been living and stuff. So, that's a big one. And there's a lot of technical considerations that go into that. And there's a lot of adaptive things and emotional work that we're embracing as a family. And so, it's a long process, but that's something that's coming to conclusion right now. And it's all flowing. I'm very, very grateful. And
how did your mom respond to, like you told us how your dad responded when you played Sunset initially? What was her response?
Oh, yes. I mean, she loved it. She was singing with it. What's incredible is right now she can't really remember our names, but she knows who we are still. Gratefully. I'm very grateful of that. But we're also prepared. There may be a time where she doesn't recognize us or something. But what she doesn't forget is music.
I was going to ask you. Yeah.
It's amazing.
That is amazing.
I mean, she can't remember the names of her kids or her husband or the names of the dogs, but she knows all the lyrics to Jumping Jack Flash.
Can she sing along with like a song if you put it on?
Yes.
That's amazing.
And as I was playing Sunset, she was humming along and creating new harmonies with it. And we'll be driving in the car and I'll just put on some music, stuff she's never heard before. And she improvises with it. She anticipates where the melodies are going. It's really incredible. Her musical mind is expanded. And there's some beautiful research that's been done on this. Oliver Sacks comes to mind. The memory of music is distributed throughout the neural pathways in your brain. It's not just in the language center and things like this. And Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia really affects language centers quite heavily. But the music is in all these other places.
Yeah.
And I would say it's going to more kind of subatomic level. It's connecting into a larger, fabric of everything that is. That vibration is a vibration of all. And it's a very specific and intentional vibration. And she's picking up on that. So and her new spot that we're setting her up with, I'm gonna get her an amazing sound system in there and make an easy interface so she can just her or her care providers can make sure she's got her favorite music on and everything.
Yeah. Could hook it up to an Alexa or something and just start saying things. That could get very confusing, though, I suppose, if it starts playing random music. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry that you're going through that, but it also sounds like it's kind of a fierce fire that's bringing you closer to the mystery itself. And if anything, it sounds like you're going through a incredibly rich time, if not difficult time, amidst everything else that's going on. I mean, I know it's such a dynamic time for the obvious reasons, and then also the music industry itself has been sort of turned upside down a bit.
Yeah, I'm feeling great. I'm really feeling inspired. I'm feeling grounded. I embrace the challenges for sure, but I feel prepared.
What are the things that help you feel that way? Are there any other practices that you're using besides staying connected to creativity and music?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, meditation's a big part of my life, and having the discipline of meditating is indispensable. Giving that time of just quiet and peace, grounding to this earth in the present moment. And as you meditate more, it ripples out into all of your decisions and in every moment that you're within. So definitely grateful of all those practices. Grateful of qigong and tai chi and everything that's taught me about the flow of energy and the movement of grace through the body, and staying healthy. Exercising, eating good food, being aware of where the attention goes. Understanding where challenges and distraction can come up and pulling your attention back to your priorities and what you need to be focused on.
What does your meditation look like?
I do a lot of, so it's kind of a combination of Zen meditation and a lot of visualization techniques. So first thing I'll do is, just ground myself and understand, just listen to everything that's going on within me. And then allow those things to move and just kind of move them out of my space. I mean, we could walk through a whole meditation here, but generally it's kind of like.
Do you teach meditation?
I do, yeah, and I love it. Yeah, I teach a lot
of things.
Maybe
we could, maybe not right now, but I'd like to. Yeah. We've often done this on the podcast. We end it by doing a meditation.
It'd be incredible.
We'll do that when we close.
Yeah, I mean, I think a simple way to put it is it's like kind of taking a shower for your energy field, cleaning out your mind and.
It's an energy douche. I love it.
Yeah. So, if you don't have a meditation practice, it's okay. And there's a lot of ways that people can kind of come back to their grounding and into their center. But it's really easy to find a meditation practice. It's easy to have resistance and maybe not know what to do, but you can just sit and breathe, give yourself the time and space to do that. I mean, if you think of all the times you're taking a shower or you're brushing your teeth or you're sitting on the toilet, you can at least take that amount of time to just sit quietly and breathe and find a meditation technique that works for you.
Yeah, the phone's taken up most people's time. It's sort of filled the gaps of life and hurried the mind.
So you get a meditation app. I think that's great. That's another entry point for people, but you definitely don't need technology, quote unquote. Yeah. I mean, our attention and our bodies and all of this energy moving through us, it's the highest technology available. Just
no doubt.
Yeah.
Well, let's put a pin in that and just circle back to that in just a little
bit.
That'll
be fun.
I just want to switch gears a little bit and mention before we forget or run out of time that we're doing this event together on November 1st at Your Space Envelop, which you have a couple of them, but the first one, the main one, I believe, in San Francisco, which is a spatial audio enveloping sound space. I think there's 37 speakers.
Yeah,
I remember
32
correctly.
Speakers that surround the audience. So basically making a sphere of sound around the audience, yeah.
Yeah, and you can move things around. And I'm sure that's been tough, that you not being able to do in-person events. For any live music venue, it's been really... we might lose a lot of venues. I hope you guys can hang on. So that event, I know, is helping you guys out. So we encourage people to join that. And we'll put some information in the show notes. But maybe you could just tell us a little bit about why you're into, or what makes, people are like, what is this? What is spatial remixing and why? And I know last time I was there, you were telling me how turned on you are by this whole process. It's kind of all you want to really be doing at that time. And what is it about that? Like, why is that different? Why is that special to you?
Yeah. So, I'll give you guys the big brushstroke. So Envelop is a nonprofit organization that I co-founded and I direct. And it's all about listening together. It's about creating a space where we can really put the listening experience first. And so we create immersive audio venues that have a bunch of speakers surrounding the audience. Speakers above you, below you, all around you. And then we also create software tools that allow artists to make immersive music easier than ever. So all of these are free and open source software tools. And that's really important because a lot of this technology has had a lot of gatekeeping. It's been very expensive, or there's certain kind of formats you have to use to do it this way or that way. So, we became a nonprofit in 2015, and it's amazing to see the impact that the spaces and the software have had on creators and also listeners. We're all listeners, but the audience and then also the creators. And so in Envelop SF, we have this listening space, and we host about 40 to 50 people at a time. Everyone's sitting in a circle. We had some comfortable chairs for people to relax on. And then the artists can tell the sound where to go in any one of these points in this virtual sphere of sound within the software. And then that translates out into the actual environment of the space. It brings everyone together in a way that is just so inspiring. I mean, the reason why we created this, and I've had a vision of this type of a music venue for years, I knew it would have some really powerful social implications. But the impact that we're seeing has gone beyond our wildest dreams. And it's so inspiring to see people really go through a transformation and, just expressing how they never listened to music this attentively and this well before. I mean, the sound system is incredible. You've got, sounds moving all around you. You're sitting by people that some you may know, some you may not know. But that whole experience of being inside the sound is bringing people together on another level. And it's going beyond just saying hello and getting to know someone or whatever. You're actually having this very deep and intimate shared experience with people. I mean, we've all felt it at shows. You go to a show and you're listening to your favorite artist and everyone's like, I love this song, or, they're feeling the emotion in that. And you can look over to someone you don't even know and you feel a love for them. You have this group empathy that starts to emerge. And in a lot of ways, there's like this bridge socially that just comes together, and Envelop listening spaces amplify that. That's what it's all about.
I mean, do you think it's creating a greater group connection and deeper experience for people because of the novelty of it being different than a stereo field, or is it something more going on there, you think? Or is it also just feel like it's like a new technology in a way, sort of 3D mixing? Because I could see that being like the next threshold of mixing with headphones as the technology changes.
For sure. I mean, many of us don't realize it, but the music that we listen to, the stuff that you hear on Spotify or Apple Music, it's all essentially, if you think of it in terms of the geometry of listening, the music is coming at us from a two-dimensional plane. You can kind of imagine this if you're, at a festival watching someone, you've got these stacks of speakers, one's on the left, one's on the right, and it's coming at you from one direction. That's great, However, we listen in 3 dimensions. And so, what happens when you actually make music that can live and be expressed in 3 dimensions, as opposed to it just coming from one direction? And what we found is it greatly amplifies all the love and creativity that the artist has put into that music. Because you can start to make gestures of the composition, musical lines and different passages, move up and around the audience, all creating this more active listening experience. Because you're not just listening to the front of you, right? You're listening to everything around you. And it's not just your ears, you're feeling things in your body, you're feeling sensations all around you. So when you're actually inside the music, that's what's amplifying this more connected feeling. It's
Yeah, and what's that
incredible.
going to look like for a streaming event that we're doing and that you've been doing?
Yeah, so with the pandemic hitting, we had to cease operations in 2 of our venues. We have Envelop SF and Envelop SLC. And unfortunately, we had to close Envelop SLC permanently in May.
Oh, man.
Because it was just, we had started in 2019. Things were going great. But, we just didn't have a runway to make us through this pandemic.
Right.
And our partners out there, they had to shift gears to be able to generate some revenue for the space and other operations that they're involved in. So we had to let go of Envelop SLC. We had a really good fundraiser with the community pretty quickly right after the pandemic to help us generate, some more revenue so we could just stay afloat. Because even though we can't do shows and our revenue's down 100%, we still got bills. We still got staff that is living in one of the most expensive cities in the world. And very grateful for the community for stepping up and doing that. And what we've been doing in terms of our kind of key activity during the venue closures has been what we call Envelop Stream. And so we're taking immersive audio mixes and we're making these headphone experiences using a technology that's called spatial audio. So when you're in a sphere of sound with 32 speakers, you can probably understand how that works. There's a sound going above you, below you, all around you. When you're listening on headphones, it's a little different, because you're just using headphones. So you're asking, well, how does that actually work? This technology is encoding the directionality of sound into a 2-channel sound field. So when you're using headphones, you can still feel, movement going up and around and behind your head. It's quite fascinating. It's not quite the same as actually being inside speakers that are tuned for that experience.
Sure.
But it's a great second best, and it's really accessible for anyone. So if you listen to Horizon or Sunset, just the versions that are streaming through Spotify, you'll hear the spatial audio mix of that spherical sound field that's moving in all these different directions. And I've definitely found that also helps deepen the listening experience, because instead of it just being a left and right kind of movement of stuff, you actually get this
a little more three-dimensional, like
three-dimensionality.
Depth, height,
Yeah. Things start to move more, and it helps you really listen into the detail of the sound.
Well, I look forward to experiencing that myself with the piece. With
Yeah,
the
I'm
sports
so
record.
excited
That'd
to
be
work
cool.
on the mixes. So
It'd be really cool.
yeah, I'll send those to you soon. I'm going to try some new mixing techniques with that. So we're taking spores and then making a spatial audio mix out of spores.
That'll be psychedelic. That'd be great. And are you seeing are you like hopeful about where things are going? Let's just keep it within, let's say, music and the industry that we're in. And are there some trends, or you're kind of seeing it moving in a direction that you're working with or preparing for or worried about or excited about?
Yeah, okay. There's a lot to talk about here. Music industry shifts have just been,
which includes the listeners,
huge.
In a big way. Like how it all happens in our lives, in our worlds. The role it plays, and for us, it's a career.
Yeah, this whole thing it's just been surreal. I'm a touring musician. I'm the director of Envelop, and a lot of our revenue comes from ticket sales, and ticket donations through the nonprofit. And I also teach at different institutions, and all 3 of those have been impacted by this. So
right.
It's so surreal. Early on, it hit me pretty quickly, like in about March or so, despite, some people thinking, oh, this is just going to be a couple months. I really felt in my gut this is going to be a long-term process. And it hit me hard, had some grieving and let go of all the expectations I had for the next year or two.
Yeah, that was tough.
And it was, it's, but also like amazing. Like I've had this sense of adventure through the whole thing. Even in that time, I remember talking to my parents at one point and, and just crying, just like, this is just amazing, but it's like, I wasn't sad. It was more just like, this is this new thing is happening, and just really grateful of the friends and family that are around to support through that. And just reminding, like when you strip it all down, being present, focusing on what you love to the best you possibly can, make the adjustments you need, support each other, and we're going to get through this. Support your neighbors, support your family, call your friends, step up in every single way that you can, stay dedicated to your work, be healthy, keep learning, get your discipline dialed at a new level. They're new opportunities. As things crumble, there are also new opportunities. Within the music industry, to speak specifically about that, I'm seeing that people are really using the music as a medicine like never before. The conversations I've been having with people who reach out and whatnot, it's been really inspiring to hear that. And I think that there's just a really powerful utility. This medicine is very functional for people right now. And so that's cool, and and I think streaming has gone up to some degree, which is cool. On the other hand, without any shows and without any timeline to plan for, it makes seeing into kind of the next steps a lot more challenging. So I've just been focusing on what's the next step, what's the next thing that needs to be completed, where's my attention, what needs to, who can I serve, how am I serving myself, and just flowing with it. There are many venues, as you mentioned before, that are closing down through this. We don't know how bad it's going to be right now, but it's going to be bad. I mean, Envelop, we are on very thin ice right now. We're going to do another round of fundraising here towards the end, now until the end of the year, maybe into January too, depending on how it goes. And, we may have to figure something else out. We don't even know. And we've been very lucky with the support we've gotten from our community. But there's many venues that aren't doing good at all. I mean, even just in San Francisco, there's a handful of legendary venues that are closing down. There's probably going to be thousands of venues that are going to close down when we can actually reopen. So it's just devastating. It's devastating for artists. It's devastating for managers and booking agents. It's devastating for the people who are working in these venues. Everyone from the bartenders to the people working sound and the venue owners. It's really, really tough. We're a member of NEVA, who is, they're advocating for federal relief and for independent venues, because there's not really a lot that's come through the pipeline. So we got our fingers crossed that some more help can come down financially, but even then it's still going to be really tough. But let's think of the positive aspects of it. I think we're all reminding ourselves how important music is for our well-being. That's wonderful. And if you're an artist that's streaming and able to keep doing stuff, hopefully you're using this as an opportunity to connect deeper with your audience. From the kind of agency level, label level, and things like this, we've been seeing some really concerning trends in the music industry for a while now. The last 10 years, the last 3 to 5 years especially, things are just becoming a lot more corporate. And
What do you
what
mean
this
by
is
that?
doing,
Like major
well, it's,
labels influence or?
like independent venues
Yeah, sure.
becoming
Live Nation.
non-independent
Yeah.
anymore. Booking agencies who used to serve,
Yeah, that's been crazy in the last few years.
it's
They're all getting consumed by the
they're
bigger
all
ones.
being
Yeah.
consolidated. And you can kind of think of it in terms of like kind of like agriculture, where you have like a diverse ecosystem of food growing together versus a monoculture of one thing. Um, that the ecology of music and the music industry has been shifting for a while, and the pandemic is really affecting this. What it's going to look like after that, I think we're shaping that future right now. I mean, we're seeing some of that monoculture starting to break down, but it's really unclear, like, is the level of that diminishing? And then, is that threshold going to be counterbalanced by independent venues and small businesses that can still hang on through this? We don't really know. But there is an opportunity for some of this conglomeration that's been happening in the industry to maybe break up a little bit and allow more opportunity for independent venues, independent artists to kind of get a foothold again. Now, in terms of touring too, and you can tell me when to stop because I can keep going on about this forever. But
Well, I'm selfishly interested because
I mean,
it's on my mind a lot. So it's nice
it's
for me to
fascinating
talk about
because
it.
it's all going to change the economics of it when you don't have a healthy venue ecosystem that can afford fees for artists. We've seen fees for artists
Go down, yeah.
really. It's
Or
been really
guarantees,
rising.
yeah.
Fees have been rising a lot since physical product has gone down in sales, and there's some definitely there's some need for that, because as an artist you're not really selling physical products as much, and streaming is the thing, but streaming doesn't really generate much income. So to compensate for that, fees for live shows have gone up for artists, which has been a good thing for us. But I think we're definitely going to see a hit in fees because you don't have there's not that same economy to be able to support it. So it's anyone's guess as to what's going to happen. I definitely am thinking positive, and I'm also looking at it through the lens of Envelop and other types of listening spaces. I mean, one of the reasons I made Envelop was to create an opportunity that goes beyond the normal music venues. I've seen problems with these for years. The focus isn't the music. The focus is selling alcohol.
Yeah.
The focus is, and it's great. I'm not saying that's all bad, but the focus isn't always the music for a large number of venues. And I'm not saying this for every kind of traditional music venue that just has a couple of speakers pointing right at the audience.
No, but they really care. Like, is it an audience you're bringing in? Not only are you filling the seats, but do they drink? Like, is it a
I've
drinking
had
crowd?
bookings influenced by that. Like, Willits, how is your audience? They drink a lot? And I'm like,
yeah,
I don't think so. So I mean, they're probably going to be high, but I don't think they're going to be drinking. So, and anyways, it's so interesting to see how this is all going to play out. I think that saying through the lens of Envelop, I'm seeing with the team new opportunities where we can create new enveloped spaces and serve the community in new ways and help to get this kind of paradigm shift moving through the music industry, because I don't think these traditional venues have really been serving the audience the best they possibly can already. And again, not that I've some of my great friends like run venues, and I'm not trying to be judgmental of that. It serves a very important purpose in our society. But also, I think we can go a little further and we can have deeper social and emotional bonds created through simply shifting the way that we're listening together and the way that we're focusing into that in new ways.
Mm-hmm.
So how that scales, we have yet to see. But I definitely am. I remain optimistic that we can rebuild in a new way as opposed to just trying to, push through and try to rebuild what there was before, which already had problems. We have an opportunity to rebuild things from the ground up.
It's a kind of sunset or a series of sunsets of closings here, so something new can emerge, and that seems to be happening across the board in all different aspects of our lives and the world.
Mm-hmm.
So here it is in another shape. Yeah, man, I feel like this could be a good point if you're feeling cool to maybe guide us through a little like Willits meditation style, and we can close out with that.
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Cool.
So let's do a grounding meditation. All right, so find a good, comfortable place to sit. You can sit in lotus position, half lotus on the ground, or just sit in a chair. Make sure your posture is good, though. So you can put a pillow behind your back, maybe. Make sure you got a nice upright back. Take a couple big, deep breaths in through the nose, out through the nose. And just say hello to yourself here, right now in the present moment. And say hello to yourself, making some time. Just be present. Okay, so we're going to do a grounding meditation. And we've got our setup here, seated either on the ground or in a chair. Put your hands on your legs too. Just relax your fingers right onto the tops of your thighs. And although we're sitting right now, this grounding meditation can be utilized at any time. You could be walking around and you could do this meditation. You can be driving, you can do this meditation. It's nice to really hone it, seated with your eyes closed. And the more you do this, the more you can start to integrate it in any step of your life. So we're going to be breathing in through our nose and out through our nose. Let's take another deep one in and out. All right. Place your attention right in to the center of your head. This is going to be our anchor point. So imagine a golden ball right between your ears and right between the front and the back of your head. Okay, this is a neutral point of focus. This isn't a chakra. There's nothing moving around here. It's just a golden ball. Just visualize that. If your mind is wandering, it's okay too. Visualizations are fun. Just imagine you're playing. So about the size of a golf ball, right between the middle of your head, between your ears and between the front back of your head. So from this point, we're going to use this as an anchor. And we're going to anchor ourselves to the center of the earth with this golden ball, this neutral space right in the center of our head. So take a deep breath in through the nose, out through the nose, just regular breathing. And from the center of this golden ball, let's draw a line straight down to the bottom of our spine. So this line is just naturally just falling with the gravity of the earth all the way down to the bottom of our spine. And notice what this line looks like. There's no judgment on it. Just notice what it looks like. It might look like a beam of light. It may look like a string. It may look like a root or a vine. It may look like a cable or something. Just notice what it is. As you notice that string, that line that's coming down, it's allowing you to be present with that connection from the center of your head to the base of your spine. Right? Just say hello to yourself doing this grounding meditation. Let's have some more fun here. So now allow the line to continue from the base of your spine and just gently drop down below where you're seated, through the floor, through the earth below you, all the way down through the earth's crust, through the earth's mantle, and let this line go all the way to the center of the earth. And there's really no trying here. You just let it flow effortlessly down. Just have fun with it. If you're seeing your mind wander, it's okay. Come back to the center of your head. That's your anchor point. And as you breathe, just review this line. Center of the head, center of the base of the spine, right down your back. And then the base of your spine, all the way down to the center of the earth. And just notice how that feels. You might feel things slowing down a little bit. You may feel a little bit of gravity. May feel like a weight has been taken off your shoulders. Now what we're doing is just being present with the gravity of the earth on this earth. As you continue to breathe, review that line again, center of the head, base of the spine, center of the earth. Now, if you want, you can take another line that goes from the center of the earth and pull that back up to the base of the spine. It's kind of like a second little connection point just to kind of get you in there. A fun way to think about this is a seatbelt. When we're grounding ourselves, we're putting on our seatbelt. And after we put on our seatbelt, we've got a nice, stable place, a safe place to move through our journey. So let's just review one more time as you're just breathing. Center of the head, all the way down, base of the spine, center of the earth. And then bring up that connection from the center of the earth back to the base of the spine. And just feel what it's like to be grounded in this moment. This is how we naturally are. We're grounded. We're here on earth. We're together. We feel the earth's gravity. It's very easy for us to go into the future. You know, we have very active minds. We can go in the future, we can go in the past, and that's okay. We can also just remind ourselves to be present put on our seatbelt here, embrace every new change that's coming our way. So take another deep breath. Just validate doing that meditation. Validate if you're seeing that line, the center of your head, the center of the earth. Validate if you weren't seeing the center of your head or that line or the center of the earth. Either way, it's totally fine. But just recognize that you gave yourself the time and the place to ground yourself. And when you're grounded, you're present, you're embracing the next changes, and you can also begin all kinds of other energy work. You may be working with plant medicines. You may be doing some type of chakra work. You may be clearing out some past trauma from different energy centers. And that's fine. Because now you're all set up. So let's conclude the meditation. Remember to keep breathing. And I like to just bend over, touch the ground. So recognize where we're at. Nice little reminder of conclusion. And there you go. There's a grounding meditation for you.
Thank you. Didn't the Buddha, when he reached enlightenment, he touched his finger to the ground as the answer, as the response? And it was so. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, man. Connecting the
Appreciate
circuit. Connecting the circuit with you. Connecting the circuit with all these amazing listeners out there. And that was beautiful. Do an improvised meditation. We're connecting the circuit with ourselves, to the earth, to this present moment. You know, surrendering the future, surrendering the past, and just being here, being in service to each other.
Indeed. Thanks so much. It's good to see you, but thank you for giving us some time, and longer than I know you expected.
I love it. I can't believe an hour and whatever else went by. I mean, time dilation. It's it's a beautiful thing, and very grateful to share your music on November 1st.
Yep, we'll link to that and to your work as well. And thank you so much. Hopefully we'll do it again.
Yeah, hope to see you soon too, man.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, we'll connect soon enough. Much love, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Willits, for joining us. Always good to spend time with you, and thank you for your generosity in sharing with us that meditation. This song that you're hearing in the background is called Coast, and it's a Christopher Willits song. You can dive into his music anywhere you listen to music, and he also has some really amazing visuals that he often incorporates with a lot of his live shows, and you can see some of that on Vimeo, a bit of that on YouTube if you want to kind of get a multi-layered experience with his work. But it's another deep dive, and he did a rework for the Ram Dass project. So on the Reworks album, there's the I Am Loving Awareness Christopher Willits rework. So if you haven't heard that, you should check that out. It's amazing, as well as the entire Reworks album. A lot of people who are fans of the Ram Dass album aren't aware that exists, and it's actually 8 more songs. I think it's 8 with, just more. It's more wonderful Ram Dass material. So stay tuned to see if we can crack up a little more for you. That's a little bit on the secret down low right now. But for now, you guys keep walking your walk. Keep your head on straight. I know it's getting crazier, but I believe in you. You can do this. Don't take any shit, but when you do, just do it with grace.